All right, let's dive into a really fascinating scientific mystery. It's a classic case of mistaken identity, and it stars two incredibly rare and sneaky parasites, Microsporidium africanum and Microsporidium ceylonensis. For decades, these little cellular invaders wore the perfect disguise, fooling scientists and doctors all over the world.
So let me ask you this. What if a painful, vision-threatening eye infection wasn't what it seemed? What if the real culprit was actually a type of fungus that had been masquerading as a totally different kind of organism, a protozoan, for more than 100 years? Well, that is the exact mystery we're going to unmask today.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to meet these imposters and find out who they really are. Then, we'll trace their origins across two different continents and see how they pull off their cellular invasion. After that, we'll look at how in the world you diagnose these invisible culprits and try to solve the tricky puzzle of treatment. And finally, we'll open up the unsolved case files to see what mysteries are still left. Okay, let's get right to the big reveal, because the true identity of these parasites, well, it represents one of the most radical shifts in modern biology. And honestly, understanding this is the key to everything else we're going to talk about. First things first, what exactly are we talking about when we say microsporidia? Well, they're single-celled organisms, and they form these tough little protective spores. But the key phrase here is obligate intracellular parasites. It sounds technical, but it just means they are professional home invaders. They literally cannot survive or make copies of themselves unless they are inside another living cell. Now, this is where the identity crisis really kicks in. For over a century, scientists looked at these things, saw they were single-celled, and said, yep, that's a protozoan. But then, modern genetics came along and changed everything. When scientists finally analyzed their DNA, they found something absolutely shocking. Microsporidia aren't protozoa at all. They are actually a highly specialized, kind of weird type of fungi, more related to a mushroom than anything else. And this wasn't just some boring academic relabeling. This was a total game changer. It finally explained why antifungal drugs could actually work against these infections. You know, their names actually tell you a big part of the story. Microsporidium is pretty simple. It's from the Greek for small and Latin for little spore, which, perfectly describes them. But the species names, ceylonensis and africanum, they're like geographical clues, pointing us directly to where these culprits were first caught in the act. Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka, and the continent of Africa, specifically Botswana. So those names are our first big clue, right? Let's follow that trail from the lab to the map and trace the origins of these pathogens and see how they ended up becoming world travelers. And remember, this isn't just a story about microbes in a petri dish. It's about people. The very first case of Microsporidium ceylonensis was an 11-year-old boy in Sri Lanka. The first case of Microsporidium africanum, a 26-year-old woman in Botswana. Two completely different people living thousands of miles apart, both infected by these incredibly similar yet distinct organisms. And that's no coincidence. As this quote points out, these infections are tied to a specific type of deep eye inflammation, and you really only see it in tropical and subtropical parts of the world. It seems those warm, humid environments are the perfect place for these spores to hang out in the soil and water, just waiting for a chance to find a host. So what happens when these tropical infections pop up in, say, Northern Europe? Well, that's what we call import pathology. These parasites aren't native to a place like the Netherlands. They're basically stowaways, arriving with travelers coming home from vacation or with migrants. And you can imagine this creates a massive puzzle for a doctor in Amsterdam who would have no reason to suspect a rare tropical fungus. Okay, so we know who they are and where they come from. Now for the really cool part. How do they do what they do? What's their modus operandi for breaking into a cell? Now, this diagram from the CDC might look a little complicated, but it shows one of the most incredible processes in all of biology. Think of it like an invasion blueprint. The star of the show is that tough little spore, and it's hiding a secret weapon, coiled up inside, just waiting to strike. Let's break that down. First, the spore bumps into a host cell, in this case, a cell in the cornea of the eye. Then, in a split second, something amazing happens. A harpoon-like tube, called the polar tube, shoots out and punches right through the host cell's wall. Through that tube, the parasite injects its guts, the sporoplasm, straight inside. And once it's in, it hijacks the cell's machinery and forces it to make thousands of new parasites. It is just an unbelievably efficient invasion. But here's where the plot thickens. When scientists looked at infected tissue from human patients,
they found a really strange clue. They found tons of the final product, those mature spores. But all the intermediate steps, the factories where the parasite should have been replicating, they were gone, completely missing. So where were they?
Well, this missing evidence led to a fascinating conclusion. Humans are not the main target. We're accidental, dead-end hosts. It's like the parasite has a key to get in the door, but it doesn't have the blueprints to actually build its factory inside. It can cause a lot of inflammation and leave behind some spores, but it can't complete its full life cycle in us. The infection just hits a wall. Its real target is probably insects.
So that brings us to the next big challenge. If the infection is so weird, how do doctors even figure out what it is? And how do they tell these two nearly identical twins, Microsporidium africanum and Microsporidium ceylonensis, apart? So here's our tale of the tape. And you can see, the differences are just ridiculously small. They have the exact same number of coils in their little harpoon. The only visible difference is their size. Microsporidium africanum is just 1 micrometer longer than its cousin. To give you some perspective, a single human hair is about 70 micrometers thick. This difference is so tiny, you need an incredibly powerful transmission electron microscope just to tell them apart.
So, let's say you finally diagnose it. Great. Now you have to treat it. But as we're about to see, that opens up its own global puzzle, especially when an imported case shows up somewhere like the Netherlands. This slide shows a really interesting clash between the best practice and the day-to-day reality. The international gold standard eye drop is a drug called fumagillin, but in the Netherlands, it's not actually registered for human use. So doctors have to get creative and use a different antifungal, voriconazole. Now, the systemic pill, albendazole, that's available everywhere. But if the drugs don't work, the only option left is major surgery, a full cornea transplant. It's a pretty stark reminder of how local rules can completely change how you treat a global disease. So even with a diagnosis and some treatment plans, this case is far from closed. In this last section, we're going to open up the unsolved case files and look at the big questions that are still out there about these fungal imposters. So what's the path forward? Well, the ultimate answer is hidden in their DNA. Because these species were first identified way before modern genetic sequencing, we have no molecular data on them at all. The #1 priority for researchers is to sequence their genes. That would finally let scientists place them on the correct branch of the fungal tree of life. It's actually really likely they don't even belong in their own group and should be reclassified into an existing one. And just so you know, all the information we've gone through today was compiled using a Gemini deep search. If you want to really dig in and see the original studies, we've put a detailed list of all the sources in the linked Notebook LM document. Piecing this whole story together really leaves you with one big, lingering question. Microsporidium africanum and Microsporidium ceylonensis are what scientists call orphan pathogens. They're poorly understood and kind of floating on their own taxonomically, so it makes you wonder, how many other diseases are out there, caused by organisms just like these, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right tools to finally reveal who they really are?
So, what did you think of this deep dive? If you enjoyed this investigation, please subscribe to the channel for more explainers like this one. We'd really love to hear your thoughts, so be sure to leave your feedback in the comments below. Thanks for watching.